Hi, hello, what's up? Welcome to Tax Ladder. Today we're going to continue our series of revision lectures. Today we're going to discuss lesson number 3. Our discussion would be regarding supply. We've looked at what interstate supply is, what an intrastate supply is. That is the chargeable event under section 9 and section 12 of the CGST and IGST law. But what exactly is a supply? We knew what interstate supply is, but for it to be interstate supply, first it has to be a supply. So it is very crucial from a practical point of view as well as from our exam point of view that we know what a supply is. Let us look at it briefly. My name is Sivakant and I'm a chartered accountant. So let us dive into it quickly. What is supply? Supply is given under section 7 of the CGST law. Section 7 subsection 1 clause A tells us that supply includes all forms of supply of goods or services or both, such as sale, exchange, barter, lease, license, rental, disposal, made or agreed to be made for consideration by a person in the course of furtherance of business. Let us look at this in detail. So, what constitutes a supply? For it to be a supply, it has to have some elements. What are they? It has to be a form of supply one. It has to be for consideration. It has to be by a person. This is not that important. It has to be in the course of furtherance of business. So ultimately, three clauses have to be satisfied. Three important clauses. It has to be a form of supply. It has to be for consideration. It has to be in the course of furtherance of business. And ultimately, it has to be a supply of goods or services or both. So if these four conditions are satisfied, then I will make it a supply. So what is a form of supply? We said that it has to be a form of supply. What are the forms of supply that have been specified? A form of supply of goods or service, we'll look at what goods and service are later. All forms of supply of goods or service such as sale. What is sale? We know what a sale is. Very simple. Transfer of title in good. Transfer of ownership of goods. Alright, simple. That is sale. What is an exchange? What is a barter? What is the difference between an exchange and a barter? Barter used to be in the olden days where there was no form of currency. Before currency was introduced, a trader in rice used to trade 10 bags of rice for a haircut, or a trader used to trade 10 bags of rice for his medical treatment. The doctor used to give him medical services and he used to give the doctor 10 bags of rice. Or let us say you want a lawyer, a person who takes care of your accounts, and he used to give one bag of rice and that person used to take care of his accounts. This is what an exchange of services or goods without the use of money. Now, what is an exchange? An exchange involves certain amount of money. Let us say you sell your old car and buy a new one in place of that. So let us say 10 lakhs is the price of the new car and he waives off 2 lakh rupees for the old car that you give him. So ultimately you are paying 8 lakh rupees in cash and 2 lakhs is the value of the old car that you exchange. Here there are two things involved. Money is going 8 lakh rupees and 2 lakhs your old car is being given to the dealer. So this is nothing but an exchange. You are exchanging your old car for a new car. Apart from the old car that is being given, you are also giving him money. So this is what an exchange is. Now what is a lease? Lease is a long-term usage. We look at what a lease and rental is. A student goes to an owner of a house and asks for lease. Does he ask for a lease? I want a room on lease. He never says lease. He uses the word rent. Rent is a short-term usage, whereas lease is for long-term purposes. When your company takes a big building on rent, it does not use the word rent. It uses lease. Where is the lease agreement? Give the lease agreement for checking. That is what you as an auditor go and ask the client. Give me the lease agreement. Lease is used to denote long term, whereas the rental is used in short term. So this is what lease and rental are. What is license? When you buy a McAfee antivirus software, you are being given a license to use this software for a period of 1 year or 2 years, depending on your subscription for one device or two devices. So that is what a license is. Transfer. Transfer is nothing but a transfer of property in goods. I want to cover everything here. So you might say this is not a sale. So it is a transfer now. I want to cover all possibilities in this form of supply. So I try and use every word possible. Some might say it is not a sale, it is a disposal. Okay, disposal also I'll add to a form of supply. Made or agreed to be made. All forms of supply, such as, it is not limited to these forms of supply, it could be similar to these forms of supply. It could have some other word. It need not be called transfer at all. Some other word might be used, some other terminology might be used in different businesses. So if it is similar to any of these forms of supply, still it would be considered as a form of supply, because it is not restricted to these forms of supply. He says such as. The forms of supply could be similar to these, made or agreed to be made. So all forms of supply of goods or services, such as, for consideration. So before moving forward and looking at the other condition, what is goods? Let us go to goods. Goods means all kinds of movable property other than money and securities. Everything that moves is goods other than money and securities. Money is specifically excluded. Securities are also specifically excluded, but includes actionable claim, growing crops and grass and things attached to forming part of the land, agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. What is it includes? It specifically includes actionable claim. That means lottery, betting, gambling, all of these are a supply of goods and are specifically taxable. Even though other actionable claims other than lottery, betting, gambling are neither goods nor services as per Schedule 3. And growing crops and grass and things attached to forming part of the land. Let us say there is a big farm full of mangoes, and you are selling the farm completely. You are selling the farm of mangoes as it is. There is no agreement to cut the mangoes before sale of land to the other person. So this is nothing but I am selling the land in totality. This would not be coming under the definition of goods. But to way back before the mangoes are ready for picking or ripe. You just plant the seeds and someone buys off the entire mangoes. So whatever mangoes are there, I will take everything for this price. That is what the agreement would be. So in this case, the agreement, if it says that, alright, now what are services? Anything other than goods. So because money and securities are not goods, then it would fall under services because of this definition. Money and securities would fall under services. So I have to exclude money and securities from services also. Otherwise, it would be taxed as service. Anything other than goods, money, securities, therefore money and securities is also put here, but includes activities relating to the use of money or its conversion from one form currency denomination to another form currency denomination for which separate consideration is charged. This means that money changers change the money from one currency to another for a certain amount of commission. So that commission is also service. So that is not money. Those transactions are covered under the definition of service. Or I convert it into denominations. So I say I'll give you 1,000 rupees, you give me 10 100 rupee notes, and you take 2 rupees commission. So this commission is also a service for which separate consideration is being charged. Obviously, separate consideration is being charged. So these goods and services are included in the definition of supply. All forms of supply of goods or services or both, such as sale, exchange, barter, lease, license, for consideration. Consideration is also defined. Consideration is given under section 2 subsection 31. Consideration is given under section 2 clause 31. Any payment made or to be made or otherwise for inducement or in response to supply of goods, whether by the recipient but does not include subsidy given by central government or state government. The monetary value of any act in respect of or in response to inducement of supply, whether by the recipient or any other person, but shall not include subsidy. So what does this mean? Consideration could be two types. It could be monetary consideration or it could be non-monetary consideration. The first para covers monetary consideration, the second para covers non-monetary consideration. What could be monetary consideration? I could give you direct money for the service you provide, or I could give you, I'll say I'll give you chairs for the service that you provide. So this is also any payment in money or otherwise. This otherwise would be chair for in response to supply of service. So the consideration can flow from the recipient or any other person. The consideration can be from any other person. It would also be treated as consideration. It is not set in stone that the consideration has to flow from the person who has received the services or goods. All right. So this first para talks of consideration in the form of money. The second talks of consideration in kind. What could be consideration in any other form? Let us say I will provide someone else service, I will provide legal service to you, I will take care of your legal cases if you provide me, if you file my income tax return, says the lawyer. So what is happening here? Here the consideration for the chartered accountant is not money, or he is not giving me a refrigerator at all. So the consideration would be the monetary value of the service provided by the lawyer, the monetary value of the legal service provided by the lawyer to the chartered accountant is the consideration here. So it also need not flow directly from the recipient of service. It could flow from any third person. There's nothing set in stone like that. But in these two things, the common thing is it will not include subsidiary from the central government, state government, or any local authority. So any subsidiaries received would not be included in the definition of consideration. So it would not be subject to GST. All right. So what is supply? 7(1) clause A. All forms of supply, it should be a form of supply, it should be goods or service, it should be for consideration, it should be by a person. Person could be anyone. A big list is given which tries to cover all sorts of persons: natural person, artificial juridical person, association of person, cooperative society, company, individual, HUF, partnership firm, LLP, you name it, mostly it will be covered here. By a person in the course of furtherance of business. Now this is very important. So it is a form of supply, it is for consideration, it is goods or service, it is by a person. Now the final condition to be satisfied is it has to be in the course of furtherance of business. Now normally a layman would think business means it should not be, let us say I sell my gold to a gold shop. I'm not doing this as with repetitiveness. I'm not doing this with the mindset of carrying on the business of gold. This is a one-time thing. So there's a possibility that this is also business. For that we need to look at the definition of business. Business is given under section 2 subsection 17. Business includes, it is not restricted to, but it includes any trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, vocation, adventure, wager, or any other similar activity, whether or not for pecuniary benefit. So what does this mean? A trade. I sell goods to you. He's a trader. X sells goods to Y. He's a trader. This is a trade. A trade, if it is done with repetitiveness and bulk, it is commerce. So this trader not just sells it one time, he does it every day for 100 times. So this would be commerce now. Trading, if it is done repetitively and in huge mass, it is commerce. So what is a manufacture? Manufacture, as per the excise law, is converting one product into another which has distinct use, capability and features. If it is completely converted into something which is completely new, it is a manufacture. Right? What is profession? We all are striving towards one profession. We want to be a chartered accountant. So these are professions. What is a vocation? So see, vocation is something you have passion towards. Probably you want to play the guitar. You know how to play the guitar. You are really good at it. But a vocation could be a profession or not. If you are so good at playing guitar, but you don't make money out of it, you just like doing it, so it is your vocation. All right, difference between vocation and profession is vocation is something you are really passionate about. Your vocation could also be your profession. Understand? So adventure, climbing the mountains, jumping off a plane. There are in Abu Dhabi there is a thing called you can fly from the plane by using a small parachute. So that is one adventure for money. A wager, betting on something. Any other similar activity, whether or not it is for monetary benefit. Whether I do it for free or not, it is business. See, it is business, but for it to be a supply, there has to be consideration. All right, it is business even though if I do it without monetary benefit, but for it to be supply, there has to be consideration element. There are cases in schedule 1 where no consideration is required, but for it to be business, there is no need for it to be for a monetary benefit. Pecuniary means monetary. Any activity or transaction in connection with or incidental or ancillary to a. So I'm carrying on the business of manufacture of, let us say, some iron metal. So in the process of manufacture or making this metal, there will be a lot of scrap generated. I just do not keep the scrap with me, I sell it off. This is incidental or ancillary to my main business, isn't it? This is incidental to my main business of manufacture, isn't it? So this is what incidental. Incidental means which is as a byproduct. Ancillary means secondary. Incidental you could say is a byproduct. Ancillary means a scrap. Alright, see, any activity in the nature of A, whether or not there is volume, frequency, continuity, regularity of such transactions. So this is very important. You could, as I told you before, you could just sell your car off and it might fall under, it is falling under definition business, there's no question of that, but the FAQs released by the CBIC say that it is in personal nature and therefore would not be in the course of furtherance of business, but I disagree personally. So does the institute. It has been given in the study material also that you could take one view saying that it is in the course of furtherance of business, and you could take another view that it is not in the course of furtherance of business. It is your choice, but anyway, for now we will say that you sell your personal assets, it is in the course of furtherance of business. You take that stand, it is better, because here if you see whether or not there is volume, frequency, continuity or regularity of such transaction, you just jump off a helicopter or aeroplane with a parachute for one time and he charges some money. That guy, he's doing it only once, he charges 25 lakh rupees. That guy, because he's crossing the threshold limit, he needs to register and pay tax. He's just doing one time, but because he's crossing the threshold limit, he needs to collect tax and pay tax. Let us say he's just providing it once in his lifetime because you're a friend, and he's charging you 15 lakhs because it is below the threshold limit. He does not need to register himself, he does not need to pay tax. Understood? Yes. So this is very crucial, I think. Whether or not there is continuity, frequency, regularity of such transaction, it will still be a business. Supply or acquisition of goods, including capital goods and services in connection with the commencement or closure of business. When you commence a business or when you take over or you're closing of the business, a lot of things happen. You sell off the assets in bulk. You cannot say that it is not in the course of furtherance of business when you sell off all the assets when you're closing down the business. So that is why this has been put in the definition of business. Provision by a club, association, society for subscription or any other consideration of the facilities or benefits to its members. So the association, let us say I am a member of the Lions Club, it provides me food at a concessional rate. Sometimes it provides me snacks for free. So this is also business. So the consideration that I am paying is the subscription fee. Because of the annual subscription that I pay, only for that reason he is giving me all those facilities. Otherwise he would not have given that. So supply, provision by a club or association of facilities or benefits to its members is also included in the definition of business. Admission for consideration of persons to any premises. So let us say Sunidhi Chauhan is conducting a concert in Hyderabad or Tamil Nadu or Mumbai, there will be an admission ticket, right? You pay something. So this admission to an event for consideration is also a business. Services supplied by a person as holder of office which has been accepted by him in the course of furtherance of business. Let us take the example of independent director. What does independent director do? He is holding the office as an independent director. Maybe he is a professional engineer. He is a professional architect. So, will his appointment as an independent director harm his profession or will it boost his profession? It will obviously be helpful in his profession. It will help the company in which he is an independent director also. It is mutually beneficial. Read this again. Services supplied by a person as holder of office, holder of independent director, which has been accepted by him. He has accepted this position as independent director in the course of furtherance of his trade profession. He is doing nothing but he is advancing his profession of as an architect. So the services provided as an independent director are also in the nature of business. It is subject to tax. Service provided by, so in a way, to ultimately put this, service provided by an independent director to a company is business. Activities of race club by way of totalizator licensed to bookmaker or activities of a licensed bookmaker. So what does this mean? There is the Hyderabad Turf Club. What it does, it collects all the money, it conducts horse races. So it collects all the money from all the persons who are betting, it pools the money, it distributes the money to all the winners whose horse has won after deducting its commission. So this is what a totalizator does. It collects all the money from all the persons who have bid on any of the horses and distributes it to the winners after taking its commission. So services by a race club by way of totalizator license to bookmakers. This club also gives license to bookmakers. Bookmaker is nothing but a person who sells insurance policies is a bookmaker for insurance. So a person who sells bets is a bookmaker. So this turf club gives license to bookmakers to sell bets. This bookmaker, what he does is he goes to every person who thinks he is interested in making a bet and gets the bets and money and gives it to the totalizator, which is nothing but the turf club. So he is a bookmaker, and the license given to the bookmaker is also business. And activities of the bookmaker, so he gets the bets from all the people who are interested in, he charges commission from that. So that is also business. Any activity undertaken by central government, state government in which they are engaged as public authorities, even this is included in the definition of business. All the activities undertaken by central government, state government or local authority, even though it is engaged as public authorities as per the constitution, it is still business. So now let us make sense of this. It has to be a form of supply. All right, it should fall under any of these or similar to this. I'm not restricting it to this forms of supply. It has to be goods or service, 1. It has to be for consideration, 2. It has to be in the course of furtherance of business, 3. It has to be by a person. All right. So if all these are considered, now let us take a small example. Ultimately, you go to the supermarket, you buy a chocolate there. What is happening here? Is it a form of supply? It is a sale. Yes. Is there consideration? You are paying money. Yes. Is it in the course of furtherance of business? Of course. Where is it falling? It is trade, or you could say it is being done repetitively. It is commerce. Of course, all the conditions are being satisfied. So for everything, you have to look at this like this. You see anything you want to judge professionally or personally to determine whether it is chargeable to GST, you have to see like this. Okay, is it a form of supply? Yes. Is it for consideration? Yes. Is it in the course of furtherance of business? Yes. Is it by a person? Yes. Is it goods or service? Yes. Then supply. So all right. Now that we've understood what supply is, we'll look at what are the exemptions. So all right, we understood that it needs to be in the course of furtherance of business, But one exemption to this is section 7 subsection 1 clause B. It says that importation of service for consideration, whether or not in the course of furtherance of business, is a supply. So for import of service, there need not be business involved, even though I am doing it outside the course of furtherance of business. There need not be any business motive here. I do it for free, then import of service. Okay, restart. All right, now let us look at the exceptions. So for everything I need it to be in the course of furtherance of business, but there is one exemption: import of service for consideration, whether or not it is in the course of furtherance of business, would be subject to a supply. So it will be a supply even though it is not in the course of furtherance of business, but there has to be consideration. So let us say my son is an architect. So I'm not that old enough to have a son, but anyway, let us say my son is an architect. So I'm building a house. I take the help of his service from US. So I pay him a little bit of money also. So in this case, it is not in the course of furtherance of my business, but still it will be a supply. Understood? Alright, 7.1c, activities. We all know that there is an element of consideration that is essential for it to be a supply as per 7.1 subsection clause A. So the exceptions where there is no need for consideration is given under schedule 1. Let us look at schedule 1. So schedule 1, activities to be treated as supply even if made without consideration. First one, permanent transfer or disposal where input credit has been availed on such assets. Let us say I have a business asset. Let us say a machinery is there, or let us say some table is there, office table is there. I've taken credit on the office table and I'm selling it off now. Because I've taken input credit and I'm selling it off, I need to consider this as supply. I'm just giving it for free to some random person because it is of no use to me. But still this would be treated as supply because you've taken credit on it. The main condition is you have taken credit on it and you have to use it for your business for its whole lifetime. If you are not using it for the business, you're selling it off, then I will not I will ask you to reverse credit. Here I'm not asking you to reverse credit. I'm saying treat the outward supply without consideration as a supply, even though there is no consideration, because I will not give you credit if you are not using the asset in the course of furtherance of business for the entire life of the asset. So that is what the intention is. So permanency is also essential. If you say that you use it for a few days and give it to me back, so that does not signify permanency. So permanent disposal of business assets where ITC has been availed on that, whether there is consideration or not, it will be supply. So let us look at the next one. Supply of goods between related person or distinct person when made in the course of furtherance of business is also a supply. So when, let us say, X Limited, Reliance has a branch in all the states, almost all the states. So it ships goods from Telangana to Delhi. In this case, it is between one branch of it to another branch which has separate registrations. As we know that each establishment is treated as establishment of distinct persons, let us look at the definition of distinct persons. Who is a distinct person? As per 25 subsection 4, a person, this is from a person's point of view. A person who has obtained registration more than one state shall in respect of each registration treated as a distinct person. So that person, Reliance Industries, will be treated as a separate person in respect of each registration. So both are different people in respect of each registration. So Reliance Telangana is different, Reliance Delhi is different. Now let us look at 25 subsection 5. A person has obtained registration in a state or union territory in respect of establishment, has another establishment in any other state, then such establishment shall be treated as establishments of distinct persons. Now this is from an establishment's point of view. All right. Reliance Industries has an establishment in Telangana. It has an establishment in Delhi. Now, both the establishments will be treated as establishments of two different persons. Now, we are looking at it from an establishment's point of view. 25(4) is from a person's point of view, 25(5) is from an establishment's point of view. Both of these branches shall be treated as establishments of two different people. All right. Further, explanation 1 to section 8 of the IGST Act says establishments of the same entity shall be considered as establishments of distinct persons. All right. Now let us go back to now who are related persons? Related persons, section explanation to section 15 gives us that a person shall be deemed to be related. Two persons shall be deemed to be related if they are officers or directors of another's business. So I am a director in Y's company. Y is a director in my company. So we both are related persons. If I make a supply to him without consideration, it is still a supply even though the consideration element is missing. They are legally recognized partners in a business. Both of us are partners in one firm. So if I make a supply to him, we both are related persons. So if I make a supply to him without consideration, it is still a supply chargeable to tax. Such persons are employer and employee. This is one very important thing, because in the erstwhile service tax law, this was not there. Employer employee was not included in the definition of related persons. So if employer gives any gift to the employee, it is subject to GST, subject to the limit of 50,000 per financial year per employee. But they are related persons. Even if there is no consideration, it is subject to tax. A lot of gifts are given by employers to employees. So one must be very careful of this. Any person directly or indirectly holds, owns or controls 25% or more of the outstanding voting stock or shares of both of them. Let us say X Limited and Y Limited are there. Z Limited owns 25% or more of shares of both of them. Then X and Y are said to be related persons, because Z Limited holds more than 25% stock in both of them. One of them directly or indirectly controls the other. So if one person, X Limited, controls Y Limited, X Limited owns 50% or more or any sort of share, control is generally 51%. Or it controls the board of directors. Major composition of board of directors of Y Limited are shareholders of X Limited or board of directors of X Limited. So that could amount to control. It is dependent on a case to case basis. We have to look at it. So both of them are directly or indirectly controlled by a third person. Similarly, I said that both of them have 25% or more shares held by a single person. Similarly, both of them are controlled by a third person. In that case also, X and Y Limited would be said to be related. Together, they directly or indirectly control a third person. They are members of the same family. So, brother, sister, dependent parents, dependent brother, dependent sister, dependent parents, spouse, children, all of those are coming under the definition of family. Look, let us say who is a sole agent, sole distributor. So I am a coffee manufacturing company. I am a newly started coffee manufacturing company. I want to distribute it in the state of Tamil Nadu. So what I do is I appoint an agent there in Tamil Nadu. His job is to sell my product there. So he is the sole concessionaire. He is the sole distributor of my product there. So that guy is also a related person. If I send goods to that person, even though there is no consideration, I just tell him to sell these goods, it will be treated as supply. So one has to be very careful for mostly trading businesses. So this will have a lot of effect. So as we've discussed, supply to a related person or distinct person is also treated as a supply even if there is no consideration. However, in case of gifts given by employer to employee, where the amount of gift value of gift does not exceed 50,000 in a financial year, it will not be considered as a supply. So a relief is given of 50,000 rupees. Now what is a gift? Now what is a gift? Gift is something which is not given as a matter of obligation. The employee cannot demand it as a matter of his right. He cannot sue the employer in court because gift is not given to him. So you have to understand what a gift is. Supply of goods by or to an agent, provided the agent undertakes to supply or receive the goods on behalf of the principal, only when the agent can issue an invoice. So who is an agent? An agent could be an arhatya, a broker, commission agent, by whatever name called, who facilitates the supply of goods or who receives the goods. So who is covered as principal agent as per paragraph 3? Now who is covered is, let us say X supplies coffee to Y. It tells Y to sell the coffee on his behalf. Now if Y can issue an invoice to the buyer in his own name, in that case X and Y are said to be principal agent for this purpose. If Y cannot issue an invoice in its own name, it has to issue invoice in the name of X only, then there is no principal agent relationship as per this schedule 1. And supply of goods by X and Y would not be treated as supply if Y cannot issue an invoice in his own name. If Y can issue an invoice in its own name, then it is covered by principal agent relationship as per this schedule 1. And supply of goods by X to Y would also be treated as supply even if there is no consideration. So this is also very crucial. Even if X is, let us say, the reverse case also is true, where Y receives the goods on X's behalf and Y sends the goods to X. Now if Y can receive the goods in its own name, the invoice is issued to Y in its own name, and again Y transfers the goods to X later. In that case there is principal agent relationship, and transfer of goods by Y to X would also be supply even if there is no consideration. Now let us change the case a little bit. Now Y cannot be issued an invoice in its own name. The invoice has to be issued by supplier in the name of X only. In that case there is no principal agent relationship. Even if Y transfers the goods to X later, it will not be treated as supply because it is not covered under schedule 1. Now import of service, again our friend has come again. Import of service by a person from a related person or from any of his other establishment outside India in the course of furtherance of business. Now import of service, whether or not in the course of furtherance of business for consideration, is a supply. Now there is one more twist. Import of service from a related person or any of my other establishment outside India, even if there is no consideration at all, it is supply. So let us say I import from any of my branch outside India some software services. So in that case, even if there is no consideration, it is still treated as supply because it is in the course of furtherance of business. Even if there is no consideration, it would be covered under schedule 1. So this is what schedule 1 is. Now activities and transactions which constitute supply shall be treated either as supply of goods or supply of services as per schedule 2. Now 7 subsection 1a tells us that, gives cases where a transaction is clearly said to be either a supply of good or supply of services. These are transactions where there was a dispute among the erstwhile laws, like construction activities, like supply of food. There was a dispute because in the erstwhile regime it was subject to VAT as well as service tax. Similarly, for works contract, it was subject to VAT as well as service tax. Now they wanted to put an end to this ambiguity. So these transactions are given under schedule 2. Let us look at schedule 2. Schedule 2 gives us cases and tells us whether it is supply of goods or supply of service clearly. Now transfer of title in goods. Now X sells goods to Y. This is a clear transfer of title in goods, he says that it is supply of goods. Transfer of right in goods or undivided share in goods without transfer of title in goods. Look, I'm not transferring the ownership of the goods. What I'm doing is I'm just giving the goods to him for use. Let us say I'm giving machinery on rent to him. Use it and give me back. So this is a supply of service. Transfer of title in goods under an agreement which stipulates that property shall pass at a future date on payment of full consideration. This is nothing but a clear hire purchase or sale on approval. In the hire purchase, what happens? Only after payment of the last installment, ownership transfers to the hire purchaser. So in this case, it is a supply of goods. Even though I pay a higher purchase installments, it will be treated as supply of goods only and subject to GST at the rate applicable to the goods. If you look at the rate notification, you will understand clearly. So this is nothing but hire purchase transaction. So land and building. Land and building, any lease, tenancy, easement, license to occupy land, supply of services. So this is simple. I'm leasing land. I'm giving it out to a tenant. I'm giving it on for usage for a specified period of time. It is nothing but easement. License to occupy land. These are different names which are used in various contracts. So I want to cover all of these names. So this is nothing but a supply of service and not supply of goods. Any lease letting out of building including a commercial, industrial, residential complex for business or commerce wholly or partly, it is supply of service. So if I'm leasing or letting out a building, it could be an industrial building, it could be commercial one, it could be a residential building for use as commercial purpose or business purpose wholly or partly, it is a supply of service. This job work, any treatment or process carried on goods belonging to someone else. Let us say galvanizing process or painting job. This is a car which needs to be painted. Volkswagen gives it to some X Paint Limited or Nerolac for painting the cars. It just paints the car and gives it back to Volkswagen. So this paint job is nothing but a job work. It is a treatment carried on cars belonging to Volkswagen and it's sent back. So this is also a supply of service. So transfer of business assets. Goods forming part of business. So businesses are disposed of at the directions of the person carrying on the business, whether or not for consideration. Let us say a business has an old laptop. It is disposed of by the owner for some consideration, or even if there is no consideration, it is still coming under the definition of supply of goods. So here there is no mention of ITC here. If you look at schedule 1, there is a case where this disposal of business assets on which ITC has been taken, even if there is no consideration, is treated as supply. Now this is also similar, but here it does not mention the case of input tax credit. Whether I take ITC or not, it is still disposal of business assets as per the directions of the person who is running the business. Whether or not there is consideration, it is still treated as supply of goods. Here I am clarifying whether it is supply of goods or service. So goods held for business are put to private use or are made available to a person for use for any purpose other than business. So I am into construction. So my pickup truck is idle. So what do I do? Because my pickup truck is idle, I give it on rent to someone else. I say you use it. You don't pay me anything at all. Whether consideration is given or not, the value of service of renting of that pickup truck is subject to GST. It is supply of service. That is what it is. Because it is not in the course of furtherance of my business, still it is subject to GST. It is a supply of service. Goods forming part of business assets carried on by a person who ceases to be a taxable person. So a person is winding up his business. So the goods which are lying in stock would be deemed to be a supply of goods. It is deemed to be supplied by him even though he does not sell it off. It is still a supply of goods. The exceptions are he transfers the business as going concern to someone else. Someone else is running the business. If the business is closed, only then this case will come. If I give it or transfer it to someone else, this is not the case. So business transfer is going concern, or so someone else is running on my behalf. My brother is running it. So in that case also this will not come. Goods forming part of assets of business carried on by a person who ceases to be a taxable person. That means I no longer am running this business. Shall be deemed to be supplied by him. So all the goods which are in the business which I am stopping it will be deemed to be sold. Even though I am not selling it off, it is deemed that there is a sale. Because the government wants GST. You took ITC on this, I want the money back. That is what the government says. Of Schedule 2, renting of all of these are supply of services, which has been clarified. Renting of immovable property. I give land on rent or lease to someone else. It is covered, or I give a building on rent. It is covered under Schedule 2 and it is supply of service. Construction of complex building civil structure, including any complex building civil structure intended for sale wholly or partly, except where the entire consideration has been issued after received after issuance of completion certificate where required, or after first occupation, whichever is earlier. What does this mean? X enters into an agreement with the builder for construction of apartment. All right, the completion certificate has been given on 25th April 2020, but the consideration has been paid after the full amount of let us say 1 crore has been paid on 26th April after issuance of completion certificate. This is not a supply of service. So if let us say 50,000 rupees has been paid on 20th April before issuance of completion certificate, it is a supply of service. Alright, there is a fine line here. At least a part of the consideration has to be paid before issuance of completion certificate or first occupancy, whichever is earlier. So what is completion certificate? In some state, completion certificate is required to be mandatorily issued. In some states, it is not. Where it is not required to be issued, the competent authority, instead of the state authorities, it would be the architect registered under the Architects Act, the chartered engineer, surveyor. In other cases, it is the authority competent to issue a completion certificate, which would be the GHMC or any other municipality of the state. In case it is not covered under this case in Schedule 2, it will be covered by Schedule 3, where the entire consideration has been issued after issuance of completion certificate. It is neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Now, temporary transfer or permitting the use or enjoyment of IPR, alright, any intellectual property rights is being made available to you. You are running a franchise of McDonald's. You are using McDonald's name for running your business. So this is temporary use or permitting you to use McDonald's. So this is a supply of service. You pay royalty. Development, design, upgradation, customization, programming, adaptation, implementation of IT software. This is a supply of service. Agreeing to an obligation to refrain from an act or tolerate an act or situation or to do an act. So what is this? You are asked to pay a short notice period. If you don't serve the notice period while leaving a job, you are asked to pay some compensation. This is nothing but he is tolerating an act. He is tolerating your act of leaving early without doing the notice period. So this is a supply of service. So on that amount that he receives, he has to pay GST. Let us say Cognizant allows its employees to leave without doing the notice period. For that, the employee has to pay the company some money. That money would be chargeable to GST. Understand? So is this not a supply of service by the employer to employee? Of course, but it is not in the terms of employment. It is tolerating an act. It is tolerating an act. Services by an employee to employer. Services by an employer to employee to the extent of 50,000 is exempt. here look at the notice pay. Okay, it is over, man. Transfer of right to use goods for any purpose. So similar to renting of machinery is a supply of service. Now works contract service. The definition of works contract service has been changed drastically under the GST law. Works contract service is any construction, alteration, repair done on immovable property. Previously, works contract service was not restricted to just immovable property, but here as per GST regime, works contract service is limited to any construction, alteration done on immovable property, provided there is transfer of property in goods also involved. So this works contract service is a supply of service. It is clearly, previously in the service tax regime, VAT and service tax was levied. Now there is no ambiguity, it is a supply of service clearly. Now supply by way of as part of service of goods being food or any other article for human consumption other than alcoholic liquor. So this is also clearly made, restaurant service is clearly made a supply of service. Supply of goods by an unincorporated association to its members for cash or deferred payment or valuable consideration. Your resident welfare association pays your bills, electricity bills, on some commission. So this is a supply of service, but if it supplies to you goods at a concessional rate, it is a supply of goods. So in certain cases, what happens is any payment of tenancy premium by the first tenant to the landlord for acquiring tenancy rights is a supply in the form of lease or letting out covered under paragraph 2 of schedule 2. So what does this mean? In some states the situation is like this. Let us say I have newly constructed a building and initially there has to be a first tenant. For the first tenant, let us say the rent is 20,000 per month. In addition to that, I ask for a tenancy premium of let us say 10,000. With that tenancy premium that I get, I am giving him the right to use this premises and I'm giving him the right to choose who the next tenant will be. He can choose the next tenant by himself because he is paying the tenancy premium. When he vacates, he can sell this tenancy right to someone else that he wants, or he can sell the tenancy right back to me by paying, and I will pay him the tenancy premium. So if he sells the tenancy right to someone else, the tenancy premium that he gets, he will share with the landlord. So this is the general structure that happens. Any payment of tenancy premium by the first tenant to the landlord for acquiring tenancy right. So the tenancy right that the landlord gets is a form of lease or letting out, and it is a supply. It is covered under paragraph 2 of schedule 2. It is a supply of service. Transfer of tenancy rights to an incoming tenant for tenancy premium is also subject to tax. Alright, the next time I transfer the tenancy right to someone else for tenancy premium, that is also subject to GST as per circular number 44/18 2018 dated 2nd May 2018. Now, renting of residential property for use as residential dwelling is exempt. Similarly, transfer of tenancy rights for a residential property for use as residential dwelling is also exempt. Grant of tenancy rights in a residential dwelling for use as residence in the form of tenancy premium or periodical rent are both exempt as per notification 12/2017 dated 28th June 2017. Understood? Now before going to schedule 3, let us look at the other situations. Alright, we'll finish off schedule 3. So schedule 3 gives cases where it is neither a supply of goods nor supply of service. What are those situations where it is neither supply of goods? Section 7 subsection 2 clause A gives us situations where it is neither supply of service nor supply of good. Service by an employee to the employer in the course of or in relation to his employment. If I do not keep this, what happens? The salary that the employee gets would also be subject to GST. So that would be unfortunate. So this clause has been put under schedule 3. The employee gives something to the employer, it would be out of the purview of GST. It is neither supply of goods nor supply of service. So now let us say the employer provides food to the employee in the course of his employment contract. It is being provided free to all the employees. So this is also something in return for the service that the employee does. It is also covered here. If he charges something, then GST will come. All right. It is a supply of food by employer to the employee. It is not as per the terms of employment contract entered into. So you have to modify the employment contract as per to suit the GST law. So basically, the service provided by the employee to the employer is covered under Schedule 3. It is not neither supply of goods nor supply of service. It is not covering service provided by the employer to employee. Understand? Service provided by employer to employee is still taxable, but to the extent of 50,000 without consideration, it is outside the purview of GST. Service by a court or tribunal established under any law for the time being in force. So a court, generally if I have to file a case, I have to pay some nominal amount. That amount is charged for service provided by it to the persons involved. So that amount is not subject to GST because the service provided by the court is neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Similarly, consumer redressal forums are also in the nature of courts and tribunals. They are clothed with the characteristics of a tribunal. That is what a circular issued says. Functions performed by the member of parliament, member of legislative assembly, members of panchayat, and duties performed by a person who holds any position in pursuance of the provisions of Constitution of India in that capacity. That means the president, the prime minister hold the positions in pursuance to the Constitution of India. Any amount paid to them for the services provided by them would also be neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Narendra Modi, the thing that he gets is neither supply of goods nor supply of service, and it is not subject to GST. Duties performed by a person as a chairperson or member or director in a body established by a central government, state government, local authority, who is not deemed to be an employee before commencement. The ICAI president. ICAI is a body set up by the central government, state government. If he gets anything, it is outside the purview of GST. He is not deemed to be an employee. The ICAI president is not an employee of ICAI. He is a professional. He carries on his own practice. Service of funeral, burial, crematorium, mortuary. This is self-explanatory, I think. Funeral, burial, bury, cremate service, mortuary. All right. Transportation of deceased is also neither supply of goods nor supply of service. See, sale of land building, except where the land building is being sold, where a part of the consideration has been received before issuance of completion certificate, it is covered by 5B of Schedule 2. If the entire consideration is received after issuance of completion certificate or first occupancy, then it is covered by Schedule 3. This is a fine line. Actionable claims. Actionable claims are goods as per the goods definition. But actionable claims other than lottery, betting and gambling are neither supply of goods nor supply of service. But lottery, betting and gambling are goods and are well and truly subject to GST. Supply of goods from a place in non-taxable territory to another place in non-taxable territory without the goods entering India. Let us say Reliance Industries has got an order in China. So it is a unique order. It cannot manufacture the goods in India. So what it does is, it enters into an agreement with a supplier in Germany. It tells the supplier, you do one thing, you manufacture the goods and you ship it directly to China, to my buyer. So the goods are not entering India. All right, there's no contact with India here. Just because the person is in India, you cannot tax it because the goods are originating in some other place and goods are ending up in some other place. Just because Reliance is in India, you cannot tax the goods. Supply of goods from a place in non-taxable territory to another place in non-taxable territory without the goods entering in India, if this is not there, it would be subject to GST. Hence, what I am doing is I am saying that these are neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Supply of warehoused goods to any person before clearance for home consumption. See, before warehouse sale, goods are kept in the warehouse they are not cleared by the customs authorities. But before they are cleared by customs authorities, I am selling it to someone else. So this would amount to double taxation. When the person to whom I am selling it, when he ultimately clears it, he would pay tax. All right. So now in between also, again I am charging tax. So there will be double taxation here. In order to avoid this, so one part of the transaction has been made out of the GST purview, so that ultimate clearance would only be subject to tax. All right. Now high C sales, the supply of goods by consignee to any other person by endorsement of title of goods after the goods have been dispatched from the port of origin located outside of India, but before clearance from home consumption. Let us say Feno Limited imports some PVC film from Germany. So before the goods are dispatched from Germany by the supplier, it is in the flight. Now I have the documents of title to the goods. Now the documents of title are sent earlier because the goods take a lot of time to come here. The documents of title already reach me. Now what I do is I endorse the document of title to someone else. So the goods will now be received by this other person to whom I've sold to. Now the transaction between me and him is not, it is a supply, but it is not subject to GST. It is neither supply of goods nor supply of service. All right. So when will tax be levied? It will be levied when the person to whom I'm sold clears it from customs. So at only one point of time, tax should be levied. That is what the motive is for this transaction and this transaction. So this is what Schedule 3 is. Now let us look at certain other situations. Artworks sent by artists to exhibition for display of art is not supply, as there is no consideration. Look at that. Artists send their pieces of arts to exhibitions for exhibition. When someone likes the art and he buys it at the exhibition, only then it will be treated as supply, because there is no consideration element here involved. What are the elements of supply? It has to be a form of supply. Okay, there is some kind of transfer happening. Let us assume that it is a form of supply. Now, is there consideration? No, consideration is element is missing. Okay, it might be in the course of furtherance of business, but the main element missing is consideration. Only when the ultimate buyer buys it from the exhibition, it will be satisfying all the elements of a supply, which includes consideration. Only then will it be a supply. So the clarification says that artwork sent to an exhibition is not a supply. In case of production sharing agreement entered into for exploration, development, production and payment of royalty, the cost petroleum is not consideration received for service provided to the government and not taxable. These are activities carried out for themselves and not as service to the government. So what is this? See, what happens is, let us say Reliance Industries has done a lot of research and it identified an area where there might be petrol. So what it does is it explores that area, it develops that area, it extracts petrol, and from extraction of petrol, it sells the petrol. Only then will it get monetized. It takes a lot of time for it to be monetized. At least 4 to 5 years of work has to be put in. Only then the petrol can be sold. A lot of huge cost is incurred by Reliance in getting this petrol out. It has to recover the cost, right? So whatever sale proceeds it gets, first it will be utilized to cover its cost. So the balance of profit after recovery of cost would be shared between the government and Reliance Industries. So this is what the procedure is. Now the cost that it incurs in extraction, in development, in research, all of this is called cost petroleum. Apart from the royalty it pays the government, so the royalty is also forming part of its cost. So all of this is called cost petroleum. So this cost is not a consideration for service provided by Reliance. It is a cost for the activities that it does for its own purpose. Therefore, there is no activity for consideration that is being done, so it is not a supply. That is the clarification issued by the circular notified. So this cost petroleum is not a consideration for services provided to the government and not taxable. These are activities carried out themselves and not service to the government. Now what is profit petroleum? The profit that is there after removing cost petroleum from sale proceeds is taxable. The share which is given to the government, it is taxable, but later it has been made exempt. So it is covered under the exemption list. If it was not there in the exemption list, it would be subject to tax. So which is given to the government for service of grant of license to explore or mine crude petroleum and natural gas is exempt. So now neither the cost petroleum nor profit petroleum is subject to tax. Now what are derivatives? So we've understood that securities are neither goods nor services. Now what about derivatives? Derivatives are also included in the definition of securities as per the Securities Contract Regulation Act. So derivatives are also not subject to GST. Okay. Future contracts. Future contracts are also in the nature of derivative with an underlying there. So it is dependent on net settlement, wherein there is no actual delivery. If there is actual delivery, then it is not in the nature of derivatives and it would be goods. Similarly, forwards. So the settlement is also by way of net settlement. There is no actual delivery of goods involved in case of forwards futures. If there is actual settlement by actual delivery, then it would be covered by goods and would be subject to GST. If there is only net settlement involved at the end, then it is in the nature of derivatives and therefore covered by the definition of securities, and it is neither goods nor service. So the one thing you have to look out for is how is it being settled? Is it being settled by actual delivery of goods, or is it just settlement by way of exchange of money? If it is settlement by delivery, then you have to say that GST would be leviable. Now interest rate swaps and forex swaps are also derivatives because they are also settlement. There is nothing but a transaction in money kind of thing. Who is a del creditory agent? And now del creditory agent has a special status. He takes more risk. Let us take an example now. Now, a normal agent sells goods on behalf of the principal and gives the money back to the principal. Now, a del creditory agent, what he does is, he sells the goods and he guarantees payment. Now, what if the ultimate buyer of the goods does not pay the money? Then the seller, the supplier principal is at loss. Now what del creditory agent does is he guarantees payment. Even if the buyer defaults, this del creditory agent pays the money to the principal. So he is taking more risk. So he gets more commission in this way. So this is the nature of del creditory agent. Now the dispute that was there was, what about the interest charge between the del creditory agent and the ultimate buyer? All right, if the buyer defaults, then the del creditory agent pays the money off to the principal, but the del creditory agent recovers the money from the buyer with interest. Is this interest included in the value of supply or not? So that is something which has to be answered. So the circular clarifies that. First question you ask, is it being governed by Schedule 1 principal agent relationship? Paragraph 3 of Schedule 1, is it being covered in that relationship? So what does paragraph 3 says? If the invoice can be issued by the del creditory agent himself in his own name, then it is covered by paragraph 3. If it is in that nature, the relation between del creditory agent and the buyer is not an independent transaction, and the interest charge should be included in the value of supply. Because invoice is being raised by del creditory agent in his own name, the interest is nothing but it should be included in the value of supply as per section 15 subsection 2 clause D. So that is what this is. If it is not covered under Schedule 1, then it is an independent finance transaction only, and it would not be subject to GST because the invoice is raised by principal to the ultimate buyer. So the transaction between the buyer and the del creditory agent is a separate independent transaction, and there is no GST leviable because it is interest on advances or loans extended. So it is not subject to GST. So let us look. DCA is not an agent of supplier as per. The first thing you have to look at is he an agent as per para 3 of schedule 1, and DCA gives a loan to buyer for payment of amount. It is an independent transaction. If it is not covered by schedule 1, then it is an independent transaction and not subject to GST, not includable in the value of supply. If he is an agent, then the buyer is no longer independent, as it is in the context of supply of goods made by DCA to recipient, and interest would be included in the value of supply as per 15 subsection 2 clause D. Alright. Now let us come to the ultimate understanding finally of what is a composite supply and what is a mixed supply. So the definition of composite supply is given under section 2 subsection 30 and mixed supply given under 2 subsection 74. So listen carefully. Supply made by taxable person of 2 or more taxable supplies of goods or service or both, which are naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, one of which is a principal supply. So what are the conditions here? It is supply of 2 or more taxable supplies. Remember this. If one of the supply being made in the supply is exempt, then it is not a composite supply. Which are naturally bundled. They are naturally bundled. How can we say that it is naturally bundled? You could look at industry wise. The hotel industry says everyone in the hotel industry gives a complimentary breakfast if you take a room for lodging. So it is a common trade parlance. If you go board an aeroplane, you will also be provided food there. It is a common industry practice. It is naturally bundled. Food plus accommodation, food plus travel. All of these are naturally bundled. You have to look at it from a customer's point of view. The customer expects that I will get complimentary breakfast when I take accommodation in a hotel. So that is from a customer's point of view. You have to look at the past and present. How is it being done? Is every hotel in the industry doing it? So it is naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. Both are supplied together, one of which is a principal supply. Principal supply is the predominant supply of the combination of supplies, so which overrides the other forms of supply, which makes the other supplies ancillary. So if you look at the accommodation service along with breakfast, so why are you boarding this hotel? The main reason is you want accommodation. You are not boarding for the breakfast. So the breakfast is ancillary. It is secondary to the principal supply. So the accommodation is overriding the other supplies in this composite supply. Alright. Now let us look at mixed supply. 2 or more individual supply. Now here observe carefully. Here he says it has to be taxable supplies. Now if it is not a taxable supply, it could fall under mixed supply because there is no necessity for all the supplies to be taxable ones. Made in 2 or more supplies of goods or services or part thereof, made in conjunction with each other, made together for a single price. Here he does not specify single price. There is no necessity for a composite supply to be supplied at a single price. Here mixed supply mandates it that it should be for a single price. It should not be a composite supply. The first condition for it to be a mixed supply is it should not be a composite supply. If it is a composite supply, it is not a mixed supply. If it is a mixed supply, it is not a composite supply. So both are interlinked. So the first thing you have to do is check whether it is a composite supply or not. If it is not a composite supply, then there is a possibility of it being a mixed supply, because one of the condition is it should not be a composite supply. Alright, ultimately supplies made, 2 or more taxable supplies made in conjunction with each other, which are naturally bundled, is a composite supply, one of which is a principal supply. Mixed supply, two or more supplies need not be a taxable supply, made in conjunction with each other, both are have a common point, made in conjunction with each other for a single price. This is new. For a single price, one of which does not constitute a composite supply. So these are the conditions for a mixed supply. Ultimately, how are these taxed? The taxation for a composite supply, it is treated as supply of principal supply. For a mixed supply, it is treated as a supply which attracts the highest rate of tax as per section 8 clause B. This is as per section 8 clause A. So this ends our discussion for supply. This is very important for us.